Well, it's something all parents or grandparents dread, hearing your kid say that their throat hurts or their nose begins to run. You hope it's not yet another illness and you pray it doesn't wipe out the whole house. Well, welcome to that time of year where it seems like there's always some sort of new bug or virus going around.
And it always wipes out the whole house.
That
is my experience.
Yep.
No one gets out unscathed, and nobody wants to get sick. So what viruses are doctors seeing a lot right now, and how do we best prevent them, and some of our best practices? So we're going to bring in medical expert Dr. Kohli for this conversation. But you know, Sam and I have been talking just the amount that I'm washing my hands. I'm constantly ashy. They're like starting to crack because I'm terrified of getting norovirus.
That's the one that we're
That's the one.
We're going to go
brutal.
Yes, we're going to go through all of them, but first we got to start with norovirus because we're worried that we're going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a norovirus outbreak right now, and we think it's for two reasons. One, people are not washing their hands enough, and you can get it from surfaces as well. It's highly, highly contagious. You need a tiny amount of virus particles. You touch the surface, you touch your face, you can get it. The second, we actually think the virus has changed. It's a little bit more aggressive than it's been in previous years, perhaps more hardy. But here in Colorado, ladies, we do have a norovirus outbreak, so I cannot emphasize the hand washing enough because sanitizer does not work.
Okay, so you've said that a couple times in the last month here on the show, and here's a question that I've been thinking about. So let's say at the schools, they're cleaning the surfaces, the desks. Does that kill the norovirus?
Depends on what they're using to clean. So if it's an alcohol-based cleaner, no. If they're using bleach or hydrogen peroxide, then yes, that works. Now, norovirus survives really well on hard surfaces, so think like doorknobs, switches, our phones. Not as well on softer surfaces like books and papers, although it can if there's a high amount of virus particles. And I'm thinking where you get virus particles from is usually vomit or feces. So if something gets contaminated, whether it's your clothes or your school supplies or what have you, you can very easily spread it to others in the classroom.
Okay.
And norovirus is so brutal on the young ones.
I can't.
It's awful to see like a small child just, vomiting uncontrollably, and they get dehydrated, and it's just a lot.
And with older people, you can actually, get so dehydrated that you can end up in the hospital, have kidney injury. And norovirus is one of those viruses, even after you're feeling better, you can shed it sometimes for up to 2 weeks afterwards. And so if you have someone at home, I know it's hard, but you have to try to put them in a separate bathroom. Don't let them anywhere near the kitchen. Don't let them handle the food at all. And you really want to be wiping down everything with bleach-based. Now on your phone, it might be hard to use a bleach-based cleanser, so hydrogen peroxide would be a good one to use.
Ooh, okay.
It's good to know.
Definitely.
What about, because I only know from within our neighborhood, strep is going around, upper respiratory infections. I feel like if it's not norovirus, it's something else. What else are you seeing out there?
So it's called the quad-demic. We have RSV, flu, COVID, and norovirus.
Flu,
So those three respiratory infections and then the norovirus. And the respiratory bugs, as we know, we're also familiar with how they sort of spread. If it's strep, though, that's a whole different animal. That's not one you can just wait out. So it's really important if your child is complaining of a sore throat, not to just say, oh, it's probably just a cold and sit on it. Get a strep swab, because if you don't give them antibiotics for strep, it might get better, but the persistent bacterial load could cause abscesses, could cause kidney problems, could cause a condition called rheumatic heart fever. So rheumatic heart disease, we're actually not treating strep aggressively enough in the US, and people don't get antibiotics with the initial infection and they can get complications.
Yeah, it's been tough. We had the flu. The flu put my 8-month-old baby in the hospital with like fluid on her brain. I mean, it was intense.
And so you're talking about a baby that might be too young to get vaccinated. So that's the reason we call this herd immunity. The adults have to get vaccinated so that you can protect the young ones and the older people in our lives. Because if we don't get vaccinated, and the rates for flu and COVID vaccine and even RSV this year have been very, very low. And yes, it's not a perfect vaccine, but it can at least reduce how infectious you are and reduce how long you have symptoms.
What about Tamiflu? Is that something that children can take? I know you have to, if you take Tamiflu, you have to get it like right away.
I took it and my flu lasted 48 hours.
Really?
It was amazing.
I'm a huge fan.
I will always do it.
I'm a huge fan because it shortens the duration, it shortens the infectivity, and it shortens the risk of long-term complications. But just like you said, really within the first day or two. So just another good reason to go to Walgreens or CVS or your doctor, just get a quick swab so that you know if it's RSV, is it flu, is it strep, what exactly it is. And a lot of these places have this respiratory panel where they'll swab for a bunch of different viruses and even bacteria. And so sore throat, kind of runny nose, fever, you can't tell based on symptoms which one it is. Kids can take Tamiflu, but it has to be dose adjusted for age. And any high-risk kid that's actually exposed to flu, so let's say you have someone at home who's a child that might be immunocompromised or may have cancer or some other chronic problem, you can actually use it as prophylaxis or prevention. If they've been exposed to somebody else or somebody else at home has the flu, you can protect them with that as well.
And when it comes to like keeping your kids out of school, if like
I
Ava
know.
coughs, I'm like, you're not going to school. But the amount of like snotty-nosed kids at school, it just drives me nuts.
I just went into Sophie's school, you know, this past Friday, and there was a lot of coughing, a lot of runny noses. I was like, no. So what can we do to prevent all of this the best we can?
You guys have to keep your kids out of school if they're sick. I mean, we're laughing about it, but it's not fair to the others, to the teachers, to everybody else. And so I know it's an inconvenience, but it's important to do. Get those vaccines if you don't have them. Make sure you get back to surface hygiene like we've been doing. Wash our hands. And even make sure that you're doing your laundry in hot water during the winter, because any kind of sheets or clothes, or especially school clothes that may have been contaminated, they need hot water and detergent. So if you wash your clothes in cold water, usually think about switching to hot water, because those are ways to get rid of anything they might have touched.
Oh, interesting. I will do that. I'll start doing it. 'cause
Great
we-
advice.
you know.
You're a cold water girl.
Well, you got to keep the colors vibrant.
She's right. Dr.
And
Kohli,
doesn't
thank you.
shrinkage, right?
That's
Right.
But
true.
for kids' clothes, just put them in the hot
Yes.
water.
Yep, we'll do.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
do.
We don't
Dr.
want the
Kohli.
norovirus. Thank you.